And Jill's not chiming in either. I wonder what's going on. Huh. Let me call her and see if she's got me. Maybe this is a heads up that I shouldn't talk about what I was going to talk about tonight. The ghost, you're on now, Mark, he says. Okay. Did I?
Hello?
Hey, am I on?
1 second.
Jill's in town.
No.
Okay, I guess the ghost is lying to me then.
Oh, wait, hang on. What's it saying here? Oh, there you are.
Okay. I guess I'm okay then.
I gotcha.
Yeah, Brian Jacobs sees me too. Okay. All right, I guess we're good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, bye. All right, so Seed Savers Day, and it's a good day of just fun. You know, we eat and just fellowship, and hopefully the 26th is going to be a nice day. It's always been fun. One time we got driven in the house, so Jill moved it to May, but then it was conflicting with something going on at the Clerics, so we took it in the shorts and moved it to April. April can be kind of a froggy month. Today, cold, snowed a couple of times, didn't really accumulate, but it was kind of nasty out. So that can happen, but we'll see. So let's see. Today's the 8th. So that's in a couple of weeks. And there'll be plenty of things to see here. Our chicks will be out, and we got baby pigs, and I don't know. It's just a fun day, but I'm hoping we have a good time. All right. So the title for tonight's show is You Have Nothing to Fear Except Fear Itself. And I doing this, but I made that I was going to do this. And here is why. I mean, I am definitely going to be going against the grain on this show for sure. And but I have no choice. I mean, we've always tried to stay with what we believe is good, true, and beautiful. Right? I've always tried to stay with that. And I love my job. I love the career field that I'm in. I feel like I just got started, and this is our 21st year here at Baker's Green Acres in Michigan. We dabbled in it before while I was still active duty. We had a small farm out in Montana, 13 acres, and it had a little creek going through it. And that's where we cut our teeth and just were hooked, just hooked. There is nothing else that I would rather do. Not even being a shrimp boat captain. Not even. I mean, sometimes I kind of kid around about selling the farm and buying me a shrimp boat, but nah, I like what I'm doing. It's a challenge every day. We have ups, we have downs. We have them. I share those with you. And I have a really good one to share, but I'm not going to share it tonight because I want to get on with this discussion. And throughout my career in this, I've had my scrapes with the enemy, I guess we will call the enemy. And they have, and the enemy is like those who say what we're doing needs to be, that they want to regulate what we're doing. And they will say, well, you can have 4 hens, but no roosters, that. And I have a picture around here of enemy, a food inspector that was taken down at Nourish Co-op. And this great big fat one, pigeon-toed and standing there like just uncomfortable as heck with a a clipboard in her hand, and she's the enemy from the Department of Agriculture, and telling those people that what they were doing was no, and making them, I'll say that in air quotes, making them throw away a whole bunch of products that I guess totaled up around $90,000, something like that. And there was videos made of it, and everybody was outraged. It was outrageous, right? Anyway, when you dig into a situation like that, you find out that there's more to it. There's way more to it. But the way it comes off is you're going about your daily business on your homestead. You're maybe butchering chickens or maybe milking a goat or milk. And here they come, a raid. That's the way it's portrayed. And that's what people think. And as I said, you have nothing to fear except fear itself. It's the fear of that happening. And that is happening right here in your mind. It's conjured up in your mind that that's what's going to happen. Now, we had a scrape with them, and looking back on it, I didn't handle it properly. I should have taken the advice of some older men that told me, you need to ignore those idiots. They got nothing. But I didn't. We got a lawyer, and the lawyer was like, ooh, a fight. Yeah, you can pay me, right? Well, yeah, some. But, oh, yeah, a fight. Lawyers love to fight. That's what they get paid to do. And then the state has lawyers that are paid, state lawyer pay, and they're just sitting around most of the time. So, oh, a fight. And so they can spar up a little bit, and we're at the middle of it. And then there's outfits that will write up stories about it. And it sounds, oh, that's terrible. And we get a bunch of sympathy, and all that happens. And so you're like, oh, okay, so people feel bad for us. That's good, I guess. And there's this great big fight, court case. Everybody gets stopped in what they're doing, and you're told, well, if you don't win this, they could take your birthday away. But if you do win it, maybe you'll be rich. And so oh, okay, well, I don't want my birthday taken away, and maybe I'll be rich. So, okay. And, you get to go and speak places, and people want to know what you think about things and all that stuff. But sitting on this side of it, there was only one reason why the threats that were made against me and my farm, me and my family, there's only one reason that those threats were empty and that they weren't able to carry through with those threats. And they were threats. They threatened to incarcerate me. They threatened to take my children away. They threatened to fine me $700,000, $10,000 for every pig that I had. All because they decided that they wanted to get out in front of the dreaded feral swine problem, right? Feral swine, terrible. Look what's happening to Texas, right? But this ain't Texas. And so we got caught up in the whole thing, and looking back on it now, they played me like a fiddle. They played me like a fiddle. And I should have just said, go to hell. And then they had other ways to do things. What they did was they went after my customers, because after all, I had a license to run our foods processing facility. That's where we butchered our chickens and prepared things. So I had a license with them, and the people that I was doing business with also had a license. And their license said, you'll only do business with farms who have licenses. So they set up a triangulation type situation. We ditched our license, surrendered it, and told them, don't ever come on this property again. And since that day, they have never come on this property again. I've never heard a peep from them. And that is because I have no contract with them. I do not work for them. I work for the Department of Ag. And I have a special place in my heart for the Department of Ag, just because they're so unprofessional, and they go against what their name says, Department of Agriculture. And I think they should be called the Department of Anti-Agriculture, because they never tell people the truth about farming. If you want to farm and you live in you're a private citizen and your farm operation is private, then it's between you and your customers. End of story, right there. If they want to come up your driveway, they need an invitation from you or a warrant signed by a judge, which requires criminal activity. Nothing that you should be doing is criminal. I don't advocate for that. I don't do criminal stuff. If I was, it wouldn't be farming. I'll tell you that. I think bank robbery would be a whole lot more fun and a lot more profitable and kind of easy, really, so long as you are dedicated to what you're doing. And I am not willing to do that. I just don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to take a risk on having to kill somebody or be killed. And, you know, but if I wanted to, I suppose that would be the one I would do. Maybe armored cars. I think they'd be easier and far more profitable and way more fun. But I don't want to do that. And I never did. I never did. I want to raise food, you know, grow food, take care of my animals, and live in a nice, soft, comfortable, well, not always comfortable, a nice, challenging environment, and hang out with my friends, and, you know, be with my wife and my kids, and stuff. That's what I want to do, and I have every right to do that because I'm an American citizen and I'm protected by the Constitution of the United States. Now, if the Constitution of the United States is no longer valid, I've heard that, then I wouldn't be on this platform. First Amendment, right to free speech, right? I wouldn't have a .22 rifle sitting in the corner over there, right? Second Amendment, right to own and bear arms. I would never walk around with a pistol on my hip. I would never do that if it were not legal and protected under the Constitution. Third Amendment, solely billeted in my home. And this comes from the time before the Revolutionary War, where colonists were required to have soldiers billeted in their homes. That means they had to have their home, you had to feed them, and you had to wash their uniform for them. And they would come and go out of your house like they owned it. And that was not good. That was very intrusive to the colonists. Fourth Amendment, nobody can come up my driveway unless they have a warrant or an invitation from me, with the exception of one time, like the Fuller Brush Man can come up my driveway and say, I've got brushes, would you like to buy some? And I can say yes or no. If I say no, that's it. He can't come up my driveway again. Especially I say, no, thank you. Why would he come up my driveway again? Or let's say like religious groups want to come and share things with you out of their religious books. And you say, no, thank you. And they go away. If they come back again and they persist, well, that's criminal trespass. And then I have the right to push 911 on my phone and say, I've got people here that I asked to leave that won't leave. Can you help me? And they will come, you know, patrolman would come and say, do you want to leave or not? And they say, no, we're not leaving until we get this guy, you know, saved. Well, then they'd say to me, what do you want to do? And I'd say, get him out of here. And so at that point, it is a criminal offense. They'd be cuffed and stuffed. Now, that's not going to happen, most likely, but I mean, that's where it would go. The Fifth Amendment, there's a lot of things in the Fifth Amendment. The thing that I like to look at the most, that pertains to me the most, I think, is where it says that as an American citizen, my life, my liberty, and my property is protected under the due process of law. So let's say the state police want to come to my property just to mess with me. I would have to have broken a law, not a regulation, not a mask violation, not some fatwa that some agency puts out, a law. And remember from Legal Rock, a law requires, there are state laws and then there are federal laws. We have township government, we have county government, right? We have state government, and we have federal government, right? The federal government is based out of Washington, AC. And they have the ability to make laws, right? They're lawmakers. They call them lawmakers. They're lawbreakers most of the time, but they have the ability to make law. It has to go through a process. Has to go through the House, then it has to go through the Senate, and then it has to go to the president's desk for a signature. And the president, it can get to his desk and he can say, nope, don't think so. Same thing at the state level. It has to go through the legislature or the House, the Senate, and then to the governor's desk. And the governor has the same authority to say, no, I don't think so. Because these people are elected by us. So if they sign some crazy law like you no longer have the right to free speech, they would never, it would be the end of their political career. And they have car payments to make too, and house payments, right? So laws are not made at the department level. Departments are entities that carry out the wishes of the governor or the president. So the president has the Department of Defense, but they don't make laws. They don't make laws. They carry it out, right? The Department of Agriculture does not make laws. They do have authority to enforce those laws, but not in the sense that you would think. Like if you're breaking a law, let's say, that has to do with food, and I don't even know what that would be, honestly. I really don't have a good example. But they could identify it, and then they refer your case to who? Law enforcement. They can't enforce it. They can regulate it, but they cannot enforce it, right? They can't make you do it. They don't have the right to slap the cuffs on you or fine you or anything else like that. It's referred to law enforcement. And then law enforcement, if there's a referral to them that a law is being broken, yeah, they're going to respond and investigate. And if a law is broken, they can cuff you and stuff you. And then you're incarcerated, maybe. And then you're arraigned, and the prosecutor decides we're going to push this one or we're not, and prosecutors are busy people, so they don't always push it. It has to be something that warrants the time and energy that it takes to do that. So that's how it works. And to think that you're going to have a SWAT team kick down your door and take your chickens is a little out there. All right. So I wanted to say that all of that received a message from a friend, good friend, somebody that I respect. And this was a message from Homesteaders of America, right? And it was from Amy Fuel. And I believe I've even talked to Amy Fuel on the phone. I don't remember what it was, but I remember the name. And I've got it right here. It's on Facebook. If you're Facebook, well, you could go to Homesteaders American. You could find this. And Amy has some things to say. And then you get into the meat of it. It says from Joel on the top of it. And when I got it, I said from Joel. Whenever just the first name is used, it's usually somebody that all of us that might be on Homesteaders of America would know who that is. And I made the assumption that it's Joel Salatin, but I really didn't know. And I did read it. Okay. And I am going to read it to you now. And I'd like to do a little exercise if we could. And I would like you all, every one of you, to respond here tonight in the chat. Some of you are just listening in and stuff, but I'd like you to all respond in. And I want two things that you have when I read this to you. Okay? Whenever you read something, it's to stir emotion in you, right? Unless it's a technical manual. But even that, if it comes from China, you read it, this makes me mad. Why don't they just write in English, right? But this piece is definitely designed to stir emotion, and I would like to hear from you all. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's mandatory. You all have to give me a couple of words, the emotions that you feel when you hear this. Okay? And I'm going to read it word for word. All right. Oh boy. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Make it big. Okay. It starts like that, like this. It says, oh, it won't stay big. Huh. You little, maybe now it will. Okay. Now it's staying big. Okay. Apparently this is from Joel. I didn't run it down, but apparently it is. And I would say it probably is. It starts off, it says, that, dear patrons, is where you come in. We have never, ever done this, but we live in extremely uncertain times. If agents come with warrants, we will put out an all points bulletin, APB, to you, our loyal patrons, to come en masse to Polyface. That's the name of Salatin's place, is Polyface. We have no desire for a showdown. We only want to be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. God has given us those chickens out there to love, honor, respect, and protect and respect. Ultimately, they are his stuff, not ours. When civilizations come to a crossroads like this, courage demands standing in the gap or blowing a trumpet from the wall. Take your pick of metaphors. Like the biblical Esther, perhaps we've been born for such times as these. If 1,000 people showed up to block federal agents to protect truth and sensible science, we'd have one exciting day. One exciting story. I'm sorry. I'm going to correct myself if I make any mistakes. We pray this does not become necessary, but now you know our heart and our mind to stand into the storm, move forward with faith. Okay, that's it. I'm going to open a door here because I'm getting cold in here. I want your responses. I'll give you a minute. Get cold. Get cold in here. I'm cold back here. Okay. Your responses should be rolling in. I'm putting a jacket on. All right, let's see what. Okay. You know what? This won't scroll, Jill. Oh, maybe it's because it's full up. Okay. Okay, I'm waiting for responses. I got one from Keith. He says he would stand in the gap. Scott Sano. When I hear that, I'm very proud that we have people that will stand up for what's right, and very angry that this same people are needed. Okay. Okay. I'll tell you right now, I have a different take on it. I have a different take. I'm waiting. Driving. Okay. Driving. Okay, what else we got? The ghost. He's right about standing up. There's only one cop for about 400 citizens or so. So there's not much they can do if the people show their will. Okay, good. Waiting. Come on, I know there's more of you. Put a little effort into this. I put effort into it all the time. I'll defriend you on Facebook. Don't think I won't do it. My lovely wife brought me a heater. It's cold back here and the stove hasn't been tended. Come on. There's a lot of people on here. Help me out here. International, you're here. Brian Jacob, come on. I want to have a lively conversation here. Okay. Intentional. Fear. That's the ghost is saying, even with the military factored in, it's like 200 to 1. So really, it's a capitalization on people's fear. Okay, so you think we're going to get the military to get involved with bird flu? Do you? I mean, we've got to be sensible. I really don't think the U.S. Air Force is going to fly F-16s over if some farmer doesn't want to give up his chickens. Okay, come on. All right, well, I guess Brian Jacob isn't going to help. Thank you, Byron. I have a little bit different take on this. You may think. There is a time and a place for fear. There's a time and a place. All right. Okay. Okay. Ghost is saying, no, I'm just saying there's nothing they can do except capitalize on people's fear. You hit it. You hit it right on the head. Okay. The person that forwarded this to me is a person that I've over the years I've gotten to know and has demonstrated wisdom, right? So right away when I read this, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Because, and I was gonna say that it doesn't matter who wrote that, but that was read by thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And when you read that, the first thing you think of is, holy smokes, this is the guy that was going to be going to Washington to kind of revamp the USDA. I mean, that's what we heard. He was going to be working in the administration and working with Robert Kennedy to kind of get things straightened out, but it didn't happen. So you kind of think, wow, this guy has got a lot of horsepower, and he's scared. He's scared. So what about me? I mean, if they can do this to him, I guess they could do it to me. Right? So when I called my friend about this today, and I just said, I have to talk about this because I'm all about truth. And I can't just put this up here and say, yeah, we'll do the same thing here at Baker's Green Acres. If they come and they raid us, I'll just put out an APB and everybody just come here. Well, I would never do that. I would never do that. I mean, anybody who's thinking would never do that, because an APB out to the masses, say on a Facebook or a Twitter or something like that, you have no idea who's going to show up, right? And I have personal accounts, and I will tell you 2 of them here in a minute, of people showing up that were like, yeah, lock and load. Let's go. Let's go to Baker's. We'll show them. That's not what this is, and that's not necessary. It's not necessary to go to lock and load at this point, right? Now, this article says federal agents with warrants. That sounds scary. Ooh. By the time the federal government gets involved with wanting to knock off your chickens, 1,000 people standing there are not going to stop them. You know, if they are that dead set on it, it's not going to stop them. I would rather have about 5 moms there with their cell phones out. That's what I'd rather have, because I know they're not probably going to do something stupid. But if you have 1,000 people that show up, one of them could do something really dumb. And who would it reflect on? It would reflect on me. You know, oh, one of the people that showed up to support his farm pulled out a weapon, or, you know, assaulted threw a snowball, assaulted a police officer with a snowball, or, you know, came in carrying a spear or something like that. You put out an APB like that, you cannot control what comes in. You cannot. And whatever they do will reflect on you. You put that out and you are asking for trouble. Time for a story. You guys like my stories. When we were going through the pig thing, we had a court date right up here at the county court. And it was put out there that was the court date, and I had made videos about it and stuff. And I said, you know, anybody can come and sit in the court if they want to. And then afterwards, we're going to come here and just kind of relax a little bit and have fellowship time. Well, the court was packed, and there was people in that court from 13 different states. It was so packed that people couldn't get in. They were all the way out in the lobby, all the way out the doors of the courthouse. People could not get in. And when we came back here, some people wanted to camp. Some people wanted to, get hotels around here and then have campfire at night and stuff. And there was well over 200 people here. We roasted a pig. We did have a good time. But the first thing that happened that really I will never forget is I came into the house and there was some man in my kitchen engaged in a conversation with my wife. And she had kind of a look on her face like, what's this? So this guy had come in the house. And when I came in behind him, he had been there for several minutes, I guess, talking with her. I noticed, this was summertime. He had a pistol on his hip. And I didn't know this guy from Adam. I'd never seen him before. And I came walking in and I immediately went right there. And it immediately caused me to stand a little differently, take a certain stance and look him dead in the eye and try and figure out why did you come in my house wearing a gun? Now I realize that in the last 10 years or so, it's become kind of fashionable because I know people that never get any further than their basement and their computer, and they strap on a gun every day. I know people that do that. And they'll tell you that, well, most of the, yeah. Okay. And you feel kind of cool walking around with a gun on. Well, I have, for most of my adult life, been in the military where when you are someplace with a gun, you become you have that gun because you're preparing to kill or be killed. And that gun is loaded and locked and loaded. And it's not a good feeling. It's not a comfortable feeling. It isn't. So when I see people that kind of want to be fat, oh, what kind of gun do you carry? I carry a Glock. I carry a Glock 19. And they kind of parade it around and stuff. I kind of think, man, if you ever had to pull that thing out, you would be changing your undies. You would be changing them. You think you wouldn't, but you would. I mean, when you're really faced with that type of thing. And you got to hand it to guys that have to walk around all day with a gun out in the open, police officers, because they have to protect that weapon, right? So I come in anyway, and it didn't sit well with me. And I sized the guy up, and he was just a harmless guy that you're coming to my farm and you think you want to carry a gun. He was making a statement is what it was, And I think he thought that I would think that, well, that's cool carrying a gun around. Well, I didn't think it was cool. But I didn't do anything at the moment. I had to collect my thoughts and I had to decide, why is it that I'm on edge with this man that I don't know having a gun in my house? But then when I sized him up, he was harmless. I mean, worse than harmless, useless, probably. And then I walked outside. I walked around. I had a few things to do. I was the guy barbecuing the pig. And it kept at me, I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking, I don't like that because the media could come here and get a picture of just one guy packing a weapon. This is a peaceful place. It's peaceful. We are, if we were going to get into something like that, we're not going to do it here. I would not do it here. I would do it on somebody else's ground because my children are here and my wife is here. That's not going to happen here. And those of you that know me, I'm not anti-gun. I have guns that I had in the military, and they're keepsakes of mine. I'm not anti-gun. But I've said this many times. If I go someplace and I feel I have to take a gun, I don't go there, right? Because I know what that's like. Being stationed someplace, and if guys want to go out in town, one guy has to have a fanny pack on in front here with a gun in it, and you can't drink. And I had to do that once. I didn't like that. So my job is, if somebody's going to come and start things with these guys and maybe threaten to kill one of them, I've got to kill them. I don't like that. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. And then I went outside and I was doing what I was doing. And then some other guy and his wife came, and he didn't look right. Like, he didn't look right. And she didn't look right either. I did not know them. And they both had guns on. And I said, that's it. That's it. And I went over to him and said, hey, if you don't mind, I don't want you wearing a gun around on my place. If you don't mind, could you just put it in your vehicle and secure it someplace? I'm not saying you got to leave, but I just don't want you walking around with a gun on. That's not what we're doing here. These are families, and we're roasting a pig, and we're not contemplating any kind of showdown with anybody, And so they did. They were pretty respectful, and they went and put it away. And later on, I said to the other guy, hey, could you ditch that heater? I really don't want that look here, And he was like, yeah, okay. And I got to know him later, and he wasn't too happy about it, but oh well, So I don't think that you really want to just put out an APB and have people show up, because in that case, they complied with what I wanted, but it could become a problem. No, I have the right to carry a gun, and I'm going to carry a gun. And then I would have to say, well, then you have to leave. And we've had gatherings here before, and I will go to a trusted friend and I will say, come with me. I want to show you something. And I show them a gun locker, and I say, here is the key. If the need arises, you go to that gun locker and you deal with it, if you don't mind. And in every case, it's been another military member, and they've said, yeah, no problem. But we're not walking around with guns. But if somebody were to do something stupid and then we had to deal with it with a gun, we could. But we don't have, I would not host something like that at my farm. This is where my children live, right? So, and I'm not opposed. You guys know I am not opposed to, if a group of people shows up here and they feel as though they need to be armed and they insist on being armed, then I'm going to be armed. And I've done that before too, or I've said that that's going to happen unless you prove to me that you're not armed. I had 2 USDA guys show up here one time, and they were wearing suits. They came in an Interceptor, and I thought they were cops. And no, they were just here over a labeling incident. And I said to them, "Are you guys armed?" And they said, "Well, that's none of your business." I said, "Oh, yes, it is my business. If you're not police and you're USDA, you look like you could be armed. I want to know." And they would not disclose to me. And I said, "Wait one moment. I'll be right back." And at that point, they said, "Oh, no, we're not armed." Okay. Open your jackets up. Turn around. Pull your pant legs up. I want to know that you're not armed. I'm going to pat you down. And they were here just over a labeling thing, but they wanted to kind of play tough guy like they were armed. I'm not opposed to that, right? Because we have the right to own and bear arms. But I'm not into guns being used as sort of a medallion, because that's not what they are. Anyway, if you put out an APB like that, you have no idea who's going to show up. So here we have this beautiful thing called the Fourth Amendment. And instead of using your constitutional rights, your Fourth and Fifth Amendment, you're going to defer to 1,000 people who you don't know. I would never do that. And I don't think that Mr. Salatin would do that. Like, why would he? He has his phone number in his cell phone. He has Thomas Massey's phone number in his cell phone. Do you really think federal agents are going to go to Polyface? Do you really think so? I don't. There would be so much fallout from that, it wouldn't be funny. But there could be a disaster if 1,000 people rolled in that direction. I was at the Bundy Ranch. I went to the Bundy Ranch. I was friends with Sheriff Mack at the time. He is one of the key players that mentored me through the pig thing, our joust with the state. And if it were not for him, I would not have known the power of the U.S. Constitution, because my lawyers kept it from me. They wanted to argue our case based on, well, it's capricious. Well, it's void for vagueness. I don't see any of that. And I kept saying, well, what about this Constitution that I took an oath to protect and defend? Oh, don't bring that in the courtroom. The judge won't like that. But that was exactly what saved our bacon, was the Fifth Amendment. Unless you have a law that tells me I can't have these pigs, we shouldn't even be in court. We shouldn't even be here. And it was thrown out. It was thrown out of court. Now, had I known that, and my lawyers knew that, but why would a lawyer want it thrown out of court early if we can milk that sucker for a couple of years, right? So that's how that goes. So first off, in this article, this call for help, it's saying that we have a massive problem. And the massive problem is they're going to show up with warrants and federal agents and take our chickens. That's what he's saying. And what does that do to people? That strikes fear. That sent fear out there. Fear is never good. I mean, what fear does to people is it causes them to make bad decisions. I mean, fear is an emotion that's given to us. But I have no fear of these people because of my Constitution. I mean, there was a time in this country during the colonies that if the redcoats came and said, we're taking your chickens, they had guns with bayonets on the end of them. So it was like, okay, I guess you are. But things changed. There was a time when they marched into Concord and said, we're taking your guns. And some of those colonists raised up deer rifles and shot them dead. And they chased them all the way back to Boston and killed 350 of them. And that was the beginning of the Revolutionary War, because the colonists knew, man, if we give up our guns, then it's going to be bayonet time. They're going to have them bayonets on us all the time. So hold on, I got to shut down a person coming this way. What? Nope, can't come in here. Nope, can't come in. I'm sorry about that. We have a dog that is having some real problems, and she just kind of wanders around in pants. And we don't know what's wrong with her. We've held all of her food and got her going on some couple of things. Wormer, but we don't know. She's old, and so it may just be the end of her time. She wandered off a couple nights ago and found her in the woods way over there. And I thought she was dead. But we brought her home to hopefully so she could die here. But she kind of got up, walked around and stuff. But anyway, so the antidote to the fear of federal agents coming to take your chickens really is the Fourth Amendment. They don't have access to your property. But why are we deferring to 1,000 strangers to come on our property? Maybe they're not strangers. Maybe they're patrons of Polyface. Maybe. Do you know all of them? I don't know. Maybe. I'm just talking about, would I do this? And do I think you should do this? I don't. I mean, you guys can do with this video whatever you want. Whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. And I had to kind of contemplate that. But I make my living off of growing food and then trading it to others for dollars or other stuff. That's how I make a living. So I don't rely on anybody, whether it's Robert Kennedy or Thomas Massey or Joel Stallaton or Parker Holmes. I don't rely on any of those people to pay me. I don't rely on YouTube to pay me. They give me some money, not much, for doing this show, a little bit. But this isn't what I do. This is just a mode to transfer information, and we started off with certain things that we talked about, and sometimes we wind up here. Sometimes we're talking about hardware or animals or sick animals or gardening, things like that. We're all over the place. But this, I did not like this because it seems as though the person that would read that would say, okay, if I'm going to farm, then I have to kind of worry a little bit about federal agents showing up with warrants to take my stuff. That's scary. That's scary. Now, that's the way it used to go before the revolution, but it doesn't go that way now. The reason why we saw those horrific videos of Nourish Co-op throwing all that good stuff away was because Nourish Co-op had created a contract with the Department of Agriculture. And the contract was for a food processing facility, food warehousing facility. And we all know that the Department of Agriculture doesn't like anything having to do with raw milk. They don't like it, but it doesn't tell you to throw it away unless they have a contract with you. And in that contract, they have put themselves in the position where they can tell you to move your shelves around, and you got to do it. Or they're going to take their license away from you, in which case you're kind of dead in the water. That's why I always tell you, never get into a licensing agreement with the Department of Agriculture when it comes to small farming. You're not required to. They will tell you that you're required to. And how do they do that? We've had one of our tribe members just recently go through all the steps of keeping them at bay, but then capitulate and get a license. And they're going to find out that now you work for them. They get to tell you what you can sell in your store and what you can't. You don't get to run your own show anymore. If they say you can't have raw milk in there, you can't. It says right here in the contract. We get to tell you what you can have in here. If they say you got to put a hand washing sink in, you got to put a hand washing sink. If you like to wash your hands with baking soda, they can say, no, you can't use that. You got to use this. And you got to do it. I mean, I know I had a license with them, and that was some of the things that they would really key on, because the retards that work for that organization, they don't have any good sense, or else they wouldn't be working for that organization if they had any skills. They're just here to, regulate and feel important. I'll tell you another story. When we had our license here, we had a inspector. Her name was Laurel Sorensen, and she's local. I don't know if she's still around, but she would come to do her little inspections, and so long as I had a plate of cookies, things went really well, because she would wind up just sitting down having a couple of cookies, and then she'd tell me about what a slug her husband was, and how she slaved her way through college and got this degree, a 4-year degree, and whatever it was. And she'd tell me the war stories about I went into Myers and we were checking them out for hantavirus and da 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 da. But when I looked in her car, it looked like somebody dumped a trash can in. I'm not kidding. I never saw a car that bad. Just McDonald's wrappers and cups, and it was gross. And it was a state car, had a state logo on the side. I'll never forget that. And she was a mess. She had to be 200 pounds overweight, and just terrible looking, and just creepy. But she would come in and walk around with her little clipboard. And I remember one time, this is a true story. This sounds really crazy, but we had this stool that when we got it, it had a back on it, but the kids would lean back on it, and finally broke the back off the stool, but it was up kind of high. And when you were doing paperwork, you could sit at the stool and, do paperwork. And it was kind of gross. The top had wore out of it. It was a wicker top. And I took a piece of OSB and cut a circle and screwed it down on there. And then somebody painted it purple. I don't know who did it. It wasn't me, I don't think. But it looked kind of gross, and stuff had spilled on it and stuff. And it was gross. But it was ours. And she looked at that and she said, "Oh, I don't like that." And I'm a big regulation guy coming out of the military. And I said, "Well, I don't, does that violate any kind of regulation or anything?" And she said, "Oh, look at it. It looks terrible." And I should have said, "Well, let's go out and look in your car. How about you look in this mirror, Laurel, and look at yourself? How about that?" But I didn't want to stir it up with her. She was out of cookies. So I just said, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" And she said, "I want that removed." I said, "Right now?" And she said, "I want you to send me a picture of the shop with that stool not in the shop." Now, things were a little weird when I came out of the military into the civilian world, and I heard a lot of weird things. And so I guess I was getting used to it. And I said, "Okay, I'll use my wife's phone. It's got a camera on it. And I'll take a picture of the shop with the stool not in it, and I'll send that to you." She said, Good. Okay. Is that it? You want some milk?" "Nope, that's it. I got to get going. I got a power pot due for supper time." And she left. But that type of thing happened pretty routinely. She would be looking on the windows, and there's a fly. "You got a fly over here." "Oh, okay. How did he get there?" Take that fly off. It was kind of like that. And the hand washing sink. Yeah. You have a 3-compartment sink to sanitize your dishes and stuff. And then you have to have a separate sink for washing your hands in. Okay. And I had to go and get one, install it, plumb it in. And then there was a box of Arm & Hammer there that works really good on your hands, especially. She didn't like that. So, what should we have there? "Oh, just regular hand washing soap." Oh, okay. I'll get some next time I'm out then, Laurel. Okay. Yeah. Okay. She said, okay, fine. Yeah. It was just useless. I mean, she would be here like once every 2 years or 3 years. And then I would have to pay her money for a little license to go on the display proudly, it said. Yeah, right. Never did. Never displayed it once. I always just kind of put it there and I'm like, yeah, I'll get a frame one of these days. But I never did. And I never felt too proud of that thing anyway, because here I was handing over $170 and thinking, because she came in here and told me to move this stool, that everything's good. And my customers can feel confident that we're MDA certified. I still think it's funny. It is. It's actually funny. We are taught as Americans, do not believe your eyes. Do not believe what you're seeing. Believe this. See this piece of paper? Display it proudly. Pay the money. Well, I paid money for it. Hey, I'll even put that on my business card. MDA certified. Oh, MDA certified he is. Well, he must be something special because the MDA has come in and certified him. What a joke. It's just a joke. But it's not required. It's not required. Otherwise, if you refuse to get a license, like me, I didn't really refuse. I just didn't, I surrendered it, said, I'm not getting another one. And I never sent them a check for the next one. Every year you got to get one. They get, what did they get off of me? Let's see. We had a license for 14 years. 14 years we sent it in. I think it started at 140. When we got done, it was 210 or something. I don't know. But I figured it out one time how much they made off of us. And it was a pretty good chunk of change. I could have used that to buy a new stool, probably, a really nice stool. But no, I had to give it to Laurel Sorensen so she could go out and buy Hot Pockets, probably. So anyway, getting back to this story. No, I don't like it because it sows fear. All the people who read that think, well, if he's scared, I guess I better be scared too. Okay. Instead of with a bully pulpit that he has to get up and say, no, y'all, you're American citizens. You're protected by the Fourth and Fifth Amendment. You don't need to be scared of these people. You are not required to contract with them, so don't contract with them. Why is that not the message that's being put out? Why not? That's my message. I stand by my message. I believe it's true. I believe it's good. I believe it's actually beautiful. That's why I get so worked up when bureaucrats like Laurel Sorensen make a personal choice to tread on my constitutional rights. I get worked up about that because that document, I knew people or know people, because I still know them, even though they're deceased, who gave their life for that document. Because military people are different. We take an oath to protect and defend, right, the Constitution of the United States. The president takes an oath to protect and preserve the Constitution of the United States. Preserve. It doesn't say at all costs, but it doesn't say not at all costs. So it's presumed at all costs. Whatever it takes to preserve this document. That's the commander-in-chief, the CIC. Mine is to protect and defend. And I took that oath 5 times. And my last enlistment, there was no time limit on it. So I'm still under oath to protect and defend. I suppose I could say, well, not me. I'm not wearing a uniform anymore. But that's not the case. That's not the case. I did military service for 20 years. Now I'm a private American citizen, that's still my document. That protects me. That's a blanket of freedom. That's what gives us the right to do the things that we do in this country, to speak our mind. Right? You can try that down in Bolivia, see what happens. You get woke up in the middle of the night and you might say, well, I got the Fourth Amendment. No, you don't. Up against the wall while they're looking through your wife's underwear drawer. You don't have the Fourth Amendment. They can come in because they got guns and you don't. It's one of the beautiful things about own and bear. People are a little apprehensive about coming in your house middle of the night. It'd be better to call first, you know? It just would be, because we do have the right to own and bear arms. We do. It's very important that we do. Go to a country where you don't, and the people with the machine guns, they are all powerful. And you see that when you go to airports in Europe, they're packing machine guns. They're packing MP5s right across their chest. And you know what? You can't even have a 22 in that country. You don't see that in this country. And I'm glad you don't. I'm darn glad that we don't. All right, so I don't like that message. I think it sows fear, and I think it holds short of the reality of our status as American citizens and our right to farm under the Fifth Amendment, our right to our possessions under the Fifth Amendment, my life, my liberty, and my property, unless you got a law. And last I checked, there ain't no law that they can go and take your chickens if they think you got bird flu. First of all, you should never grant access to any of them onto your property, ever. You don't have the Department of Agriculture showing up. Hey, we're just in the neighborhood and we thought we'd stop by because the stall's mucked out. No, they're always there to bend you over. Always. That's their job. They're there to regulate and gain more power. But don't let them take your power. You have so much power as an American citizen. And I'll go one better, right? As a military member, and I know that they are not, of course they're not. We don't let people with blue hair come in. As a military member, you take an oath to protect and defend, but there's a hook in that. And to carry out the lawful orders of the officers appointed above you. Okay? The officers. It doesn't say, but not non-commissioned officers. It says officers. So you hold, let's say you're a non-commissioned officer, you're a sergeant. You hold the office of sergeant, and the people that are beneath you, you command them. Okay? Now, this is going to be a little coarse for some of you people, not for Army people, because they know all about this. Marines do too. Air Force people don't know this because it never comes up until you get further into it. You will notice, I don't even know if I should go here. Okay, I'm just gonna curb it a little bit. And forget the Army thing, forget the Marine thing. As an oath taker, someone who has taken a solemn oath, you put your hand on the Bible, your right hand up, and you do it in front of witnesses before God and country, and you take an oath to protect and defend that document and carry out the lawful orders of the officers appointed above you. If an officer appointed above me says, I want you, Sergeant, to take that group of men and do this, and I'm thinking, we're going to get killed. I have to do it. I have to do it. If I don't, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, I can face a firing squad. And my oath of office is a contract. you serve under contract with the military, and you sign kind of a blank check, because I say I will carry out the orders, the lawful orders of the officers appointed above me. Now, let's say an officer says, I want you to kick in that door, go in and confiscate their weapons. That's not a lawful order, because that citizen has the right to their weapons. So that would be an unlawful order. And I would say, nope. And he'd say, you want to face court-martial? And I say, I welcome it. I welcome it, sir. Let's do this. Because who's going down? He is. Not me. That's not a lawful order. Right? So it goes a little further than that. I'm going to go there right now. I'm just going to keep it, let's say, an agriculture employee decides that they're going to trample your constitutional rights. And let's say they even lie to you and say, no, it's the law, you got to comply with it. Let's say they lie to you and they say you have to. And whatever they're quoting is repugnant, which means it's 180 degrees from your Fifth Amendment absolute right to your property, lawful property, not illegal property. You can't say, well, that's my crack cocaine, you can't take that. No, lawful property. A lawful, your life, your liberty, that's your freedom. And your property is also your process. Let's say somebody says, hey, Brian Jacobs, you can't be tapping trees because we say so. And it's somebody who has taken an oath to protect your constitutional rights. They've violated their oath. And now you got them. Now, they don't know that. And they think, yeah, well, my boss will never do anything to me. It's not your boss you have to worry about. It's me you have to worry about, because we have a contract. You and I have a contract. You made a contract with me, the citizen. You are a public servant. And I can summons you into a court at the county, and you got to show up. And then you got to tell that judge why you chose to violate my constitutional rights. You got to make your case to him. All I have to do is get you summoned for violation of my constitutional rights. It's very easy, but you got to show, and you better bring a lawyer with you. And that's going to cost you. And the state ain't going to pay, because they're not paying you to violate my constitutional rights. That's why they have you take an oath to the Constitution. They're all required to. So they're bound by contract. It's that simple. And when you get somebody that says that it's the law and they misquote a law, that is called degradation of constitutional rights under the color of law. And that is criminal. So you can summons them to a court, and the judge may say, ooh, I understand you didn't understand this, Mr. Baker, but this guy has actually committed a crime. And we're going to have to refer this again, because this is, although it is a civil matter and it was brought into a civil court, it's actually criminal. So they're in a perilous position if they misquote laws or don't know where they stand on their regulations and quote it as though it were law. They're in a perilous position. It's just that we are relying on their chain of command to discipline them, which is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's DEI city in those stinking departments. They don't have control of their people at all. At all. It's a mess. But at the lower levels these days, the lower level peons, they're a little worried about getting sued for their net worth. They're a little worried because it happens. It happens. And the departments don't back them up. The departments throw them under the bus. Oh, shouldn't have done that. You're on your own. That's what happens. That's not a good place to work. So when these guys step out of line with citizenry, especially certain citizenry that know their rights, they put themselves in a very bad place. That's the message that should be enunciated. Not, oh no, federal agents with warrants, help. That's not good. That's not good. That's actually very ineffective. Very ineffective. You have to deal with this soberly and constitutionally. And I don't know why the Constitution isn't brought up more in farm circles. I don't know. Is it because we want to keep sort of a fear industry going? You know, is it sort of like the NRA? You know, the NRA, hey, they're going to take your guns. You better make your donation to us because we keep your guns. We keep your guns. If it wasn't for the NRA, there would be no guns. They'd take them from you. No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. They can't. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen here and there. People are always going to bring up, well, what about what happened down there in the Gulf Coast when they had that thing that came through and what was it? I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, there was federal agents that were confiscating people's guns. It did happen. And I don't know what happened to those federal agents, you know, but it does happen. But our Constitution is very vital. It is alive and well. I have 2 sons that have taken an oath to protect and defend it. So that's 3 of us anyway. And I would have never made it through the problem that we had with the state and the DNR and the Department of Agriculture had that Constitution not be in place. If I was just relying on lawyers, the lawyers wanted to compromise. Well, you can give up some of your pigs, or just get a license, Mark. Just get a license, and then they come once a year. You know, you pay them $170. You can keep your pigs. No, I'm not going to get a license, because if I do, then they get to tell me how to fence. They get to tell me what fence charger I use. They get to tell me, you know, how to build gates. And they're retards. Why do I want to listen to them? But if you have a license from them, they get to tell you that. It's like buying a fishing license. Well, this fish looks good enough to me. Conservation officer sees that and says, that is 1/10 of an inch too short. Here's a $250 fine. Yeah, that's how that works. Or you don't, one of your trailer lights is out. That's a $50 fine. If you don't have a license, you're not under their authority. And people have said, oh yeah, why don't you go fishing without a license? Well, I'm going to. I'm just not doing it yet. I'm not doing it yet. Right? Just because certain people that I go fishing with get too stressed out. But can you imagine? I ain't got no license. So what are you going to write on your pad? What's your name? I'm not telling you. What are you going to do? Yell at me? Shoot me? Cuff me? Because I won't give them my name? Because I'm in a boat? No. There's nothing they can do. Absolutely nothing that they can do. And if it's a legitimate traffic stop, right, and I have a license, now I haven't pushed this press the test button either, but I plan to. I'm going to surrender my driver's license at some point. No plates on my car and no driver's license in my pocket. And I'm just saying, I don't have one. So I never agreed to any of the things. You can't prevent me from using this road. Well, we'll take you to jail. Well, let's see what happens. I guess we'll see what happens then. I guess I'll really find out. But it may cost you too, because I don't have a contract with you. And you're holding to me to a contract that I never made. I don't think it's against the law for me to travel on this road without a license. I don't think it is, but we'll find out. We'll find out. All right. So I got a lot of comments here. Okay. So that's where I stand on that. I don't like the propagation of fear because it makes people do erratic things. We need to think this through. We're either going to use our constitutional rights or we're just going to yell help. And whoever shows up, they'll keep the federal agents away. 1,000 of them will. How's that? If they got warrants, you can't prevent a federal agent from walking onto a property that they have a warrant. Now, where did they get the warrant and what's it for? I don't understand that because there's nothing criminal going on that farm. So this whole argument doesn't hold water, but I think it scares people. I think it does, and I don't think that's healthy. Okay. Chris Heitzman, late to the party, but I'm here. Sorry I'm late, but I'm here. International. Okay, Scott. Scott's proud to hear that people will stand up for what's right. Very angry that the same people are needed. They're not. That's what I'm telling you. All it takes, if you've got a group of people that show up at your house, let's say they're federal officers, let's say that they're USDA people and say, we're here to look at your chickens. There's only one word that you have to say. No. Leave. 2 words. And then if they don't leave, right, you're on private property. And if they don't leave, what do you do then? You say, I will ask you one more time, and then I'm dialing 911. Dial 911, sheriff shows up, city police show up. I've asked these people to leave my property, and they won't. So because they work for the USDA, they can violate your Fourth Amendment? USDA can? Who else can? DOT, can they? Department of Ag, can they? ATF, can they? No, none of them can. You're protected from them by the Fourth Amendment. Sheriff's Department, can they? No. If they have a warrant, they can. An arrest warrant, sure. Search warrant, yeah. But what does that take? If they want to drive up the driveway and say, hey, can we talk to you? Depends what you want to talk about. You know, are you fishing for information that you're going to use on me? I don't think I want to talk to you. You want to talk to me about, you know, a deer that was hit and maybe, you know, some other thing, or you need my help for something? Oh, that's different. I'm not saying just don't never talk to cops. I'm not saying that. They need your help sometimes. There's good cops. There's lots of good cops. There's probably lots of good people that work for the Department of Ag. Maybe. I never met one. I met a bunch of fruitcakes, actually. And the DNR, I never met anyone from the DNR that struck me as somebody that I would want to look after my family while I had to go and do something very important. I never met one, honestly. They seem like a bunch of creeps to me. And I stick up for the state police all the time. They were actually pretty good to me. They really were. Several occasions, state policemen came to me and said, hey, you know, this is really a bunch of horse shit that's happening to you. I don't know why this is happening. You really friends with, and they were always pretty good. I mean, they would be the cops too. We've got some great county cops, you know, they would be the ones you run to if you need help. And hopefully they run to us if they need help because we're on the same team. But I do not see small farms and Department of Agriculture on the same team. They want to dominate you. They want to be in charge. That is not teamwork. You know, they never shoulder any of the load. You're paying them. They're not paying you. And their salaries come out of your pocket too. I don't see them as good at all. I think they should be pared down to about 10% of who they are so they can give annual reports to the governor so the governor knows what's our food supply looking like. But no, they've got into all kinds of other things. And I don't think it's legit. Anyway. Keith says he would stand in the gap. I know you would stand here, Keith. But you know something? I would not need that. I have a constitution. I don't need bodies here. I don't. That doesn't really, I think I would want witnesses. I want witnesses here because these dirtbags will say, well, he brandished a weapon. And I would want somebody to say, hey, he did not. Or he raised his voice to me. You know, after we won our court case with the DNR over the pig thing, we won because they forfeited. They moved for dismissal. They finally said, yeah, we really don't have a case. And the judge said, well, case dismissed. They moved for a dismissal. We don't want to fight with Mark anymore, is what they said. We no longer, they actually said it, we no longer have a problem with Mark's pigs. And the judge was like, you did yesterday. Yeah, but we don't today. That was their defense. They knew they were going to lose because we were pulling the Fifth Amendment out. You mean you want to take this guy's property away and you don't have any kind of law to back it up? Yeah, that's what they were trying to do. But what they were really trying to do was scare me into surrendering my property. That's what they were trying to do. That was the threat of the $700,000 fine, the threat of taking my children, and the threat of incarcerating me. They made threats. The $700,000 fine, that's like, we're going to take your birthday away, right? I don't take that too personally. Incarcerating me, I've had that threat before. But the one about my children, I don't forget that one. And anything that grows from that vine, I think is bad. It's just bad. And, you know, we don't forget. We just don't forget, you know. Forgive? Maybe, but I don't forget. All right. Chris is driving. He's coming. Okay. He's right about standing up. Yeah. He is, but you stand up with the correct tools. You know, if I have to lead people into a difficult situation as a sergeant, I may say to them, hey, look, this could get really rough. But then I'm going to say, but look what we've got on our side. Look what we've got available. See this radio? I can call in some really hot stuff here in an instant. So be brave, right? I'm not telling them when we get out there and you start getting shot at, yell for help. Yell for 1,000 people to come and stand in the gap for you. No, you're going to get pummeled. 1,000 people can't do any more than one person can do. That's bad advice. I'm telling you, you're my people, and I'm telling you that is bad advice. And I don't know why that advice is being given. There's better advice. There's much better advice. I've just given you. Okay, the ghost says, no, I'm just, okay, I read that one. The ghost says agent provocateurs. Interesting that you say that. Did you ask the question for consideration? Dave, did I ask the question for consideration? This is Jennifer. Okay. Can you explain what you mean by that? Did I ask it for consideration? Which question? I asked you to give me the first emotion that was stirred when I read that to you. That's what I was asking for. The first emotion. When I read, my first emotion was rage. I'm pulling my tomahawk when I read that, right? You're telling me in this country, the United States of America, that we have to be subservient to these blue hair weirdos because they don't like us farming? They want to be in charge of our farming because they've been to college. They're so much smarter than us. You're telling me that? And I'm supposed to kind of accept that? That infuriates me. That infuriates me. And I kind of get a fun feeling about that. You know what I'm saying? I kind of, okay, I guess you better back up what you're going to say here. scalps. Could you rephrase that, Jennifer? Because I'd like to answer you, but I'm not sure what you are. You're asking me a question. Did I ask the question for consideration? Could you rephrase that? I'd really like to. Okay. Okay, parked now. I'm in favor of APB, but only for the visual response. Firearms are not needed in that scenario. At this point, it does create a flashpoint, and that is the danger and why firearms are best left out of the situation. Okay, but if you make an APB, Chris, and somebody shows up, and I just used firearms as a, an outlier thing. What if somebody shows up and starts running their mouth and gets in the face of one of these federal agents? What if he spits in their face? What if he calls them a name? What if he starts a fist fight? You don't have control over that if you put an all points bulletin. Anybody can show up. I'm calling anybody. I need 1,000 people here. And I'm in trouble. Help me. What if somebody brings a rope and wants to hang one of them? You have no control at that point. That's why I say, hey, and I advise this, to people who think they might be in danger of this, and they run through, they war game it. I help them war game it. Okay, if this happens, you do this. First of all, you slow everything down. You want IDs, state IDs too. I mean, driver's licenses. I give them a whole list of things that they need to do. You're in charge, private property. You get to say, I don't care if they do have a warrant. Okay, I'll let you do your warrant, but I want this first. And you're in charge. You're the home owner. You're the property owner. Property rights mean something in this country. They really do. And I can tell you I'll even tell you a story in a minute after I get through these on what I did. And if I can get away with it, anybody can or if I can do it, anybody can do it. However, a large crowd shaming and exposing the agents who have come to destroy the chickens is needed to show the anger and disapproval of the actions. Well, you just better hope that there's not an incident that could be used against you. And let's say the side that's coming to kill your chickens, that they mix in with the group. Anybody ever heard of J6? And they cause a stink with one of their comrades. Make it look good. Make it look good. Yeah, really hit me. That falls on you, the owner of the farm. We went there peacefully. We had a warrant in hand. We were just going to take these guys' chickens, and somebody punched me in the eye. Right? So that's not going to look good. And you're out of control at that point. When you say 1,000 people show up, I need help. You have no idea who's going to show up. And I can tell you, we open the farm up for like seed savers. We open the farm up for Tribe Day. We've opened the farm up for inspirational speakers to be here. And we've had some crazy people show up, really crazy people. One guy, I had to open his door and help him into his van to help him leave. And he sat at the bottom of my driveway and listened to Snoop Doggy Dogg for 15 minutes before he left. He was kind of upset that I wouldn't let him stay at my son's cabin. He wanted to work for me. Well, I'll just work for you. You don't have to pay me. No, you could pay me. I'd work for about $15 an hour, he says. No, I don't need your help. You got to go. I've had some crazies show up here. Crazies. And I can handle that. But not everybody can. Right? But if you say, APB, everybody show up, these stinking federal agents that are going to, federal agents? What, like ATF agents? Or somebody that works for the USDA? Oh, that's a federal agent? Oh, okay. Okay. Marshal Service is going to show up? I don't know. It's starting to sound like, jackbooted thugs, jackbooted, jackbooted thugs showing up, and I don't think so. Okay. Chris goes on to say before they had a clue and then dropped the ball so hard that we had still feeling the repercussions and will continue to feel it for many years to come. The USDA, no, before they had a clue, just because they're the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. Okay, so it's federal. It doesn't mean it's more powerful. It doesn't mean like they're smarter and bigger and better and everything. They work for the federal government, where the MDA works for the state government, right? And then down one from that, you may not believe that this is true, but it is at the county level, you have county health department, and they're in charge at the county level. Crunchy Mama. McDonald's rappers tell you all you need to know. Yeah, old Laurel Sorensen. I wonder if she's still alive. Yeah. Did I mention her before? Yeah, well, I did. I don't care. Okay, the ghost. George Gordon would have been proud to hear this. No, I don't know George, I don't think. David, this must be Jennifer. I wonder if the Safticanes would like to have someone to call when the boogeyman in dark brown shows up and takes life and land. I bet the Southie man would like to have Boom Boom. I'm not from Southie, by the way. I'm from Shrewsbury, but I don't understand that. I understand it as the same as the stupid propaganda I read all the time in the Star Tribune, and we do not have TV, so I am grateful I do not have to be subject to more propaganda. Okay. Colleen, would you start off homesteading by having a cow or sheep for milk? I would never have a sheep for milk. I don't think I ever would. I really want a milk cow, but I'm afraid of the commitment. Yeah, that fear is going to get you. If you're afraid, then don't do it. I feel the sheep would be easier to start. You're still committed. You got to milk the damn thing every day. And sheep are weird. I can't help you. I don't think I can. That's not what this conversation is about anyway. Keith, in reality, just a handful of people with a camera, cell phone. Exactly right. As witnesses. You don't have to shame, fags. You just witness what they're doing. Right? And if they're doing something illegal, they never really do anything illegal. I only remember one time when something was done illegally that I saw. But most of the time, what they do is you're under contract with them, and then they see something in your fridge that they don't like. Oh, you're selling meat by the cut? We don't like that. You can sell wholes and halves, but not by the cut. Why? Because we say so, and it's in our rules. Yeah, but you ain't got a law. Yeah, but you signed the contract. What they do is they say, we're going to have to hold all your products. They're punishing you. And so they take out this tape and they put over your fridges, right? Do not remove, it says on the tape. Oh, what happens if I do? Nothing. You're violating what it says on the tape. Do not remove. Yeah, but what if I do? I'm going to find out right now. Pull it off. What are you going to do? Can you hit me? Can you fine me? Are you going to write me a ticket? Are you going to call my mom? What are you going to do? Why should I listen to you? Why do you listen to them? That's what I'm saying anyway. Okay. Keith says, okay, Dave says, I can't wait to have a milk cow. Someday soon we will leave this 5G swampy city in Minnesota. Colleen says, I would love a cow so much, but being a first generation homesteader, it seems like a lot to start. You're right. You're right. You should start off with like a turtle, something with less commitment. Well, you got to feed them though. You got to feed them. I'm being sarcastic. I'm just in that kind of mood. Dave Arndt says South Africa. Oh, not South Boston. I'm not from Boston. I'm from Shrewsbury. Okay, Colleen Marie says she's dying with laughter. Colleen. Okay, so I guess I didn't irritate you too much, Colleen. I'll help you. Get a cow. There's not too, if you live by me, come over on a Saturday, call first. I'll show you my cows. I'll let you cuddle them. You will fall in love. You probably fall in love with May, my favorite little heifer, but you can't have her. You would love to have a cow. It's a great commitment. It's, you get in commitments like to go to the health club. What hassle. What a hassle. Ick. It's way better to be committed to a beautiful animal that eats grass, has beautiful smelling breath, comes over and rubs on you, loves you. You can sit down next to him, you can cuddle him, and then they give you milk. You can make cheese, you can have a nice glass of milk. Okay. The ghost. Oh no, Mark dropped the F-bomb. Blue hairs are gonna seethe. I did not. Oh, I said fag. You can say that now. Yeah. And you can say retard too. And you could always say the F-bomb. Nobody really didn't like that. My wife didn't like it very much. But no, under the new administration, we can say all those words we used to use all the time. I don't really use fag as a derogatory term, though. It's more like, like how black people call each other the N-word. Well, it's kind of like friends of mine that I know are normal. And as sort of like a term of endearment, call them a fag. Right? It's just a thing, like people like me from the Boston area. And you can't hold it against us. You can't. I mean, it's actually kind of racist to say that I can't say that. Hey, it's part of my upbringing. We call each other fags all the time. And it's a term of endearment. Now, to call a homosexual man a fag, I would never do that. The poor guy, he's homosexual. Why would you make it worse by calling him a fag? Okay, since you have been enlisted and sworn to protect against the domestic enemy, who is considered the domestic enemy? Anybody who attempts to subvert the constitutional rights of the citizenry. Anyone. Foreign or domestic. You cannot subvert an American citizen's constitutional rights. You cannot do that. And usually they back down real quick. But most citizens really don't know this. If you haven't noticed, we didn't get civics in high school. The boomers, we did not get it. We have to learn that on our own. And the best way to learn it is in a court case, especially the one that I went through. Okay. Okay, the ghost is saying, ha, ha, ha. I just like joking with you. Okay. Oh, okay. What if the people are being subverted by the government? Then you have to hold them accountable. So it's very simple, actually. There's two courts that we're concerned with. I mean, I'm not concerned with probate court and anything like that. There's a lot of different courts. But a civil court is contract court. So you have a contract with your neighbor. Your neighbor's going to mow your lawn, but then does a crummy job, in your opinion, so you don't pay him. And he wants to get paid. So he says, well, I'll show you. And he goes up to the courthouse and files a civil action against you, in which he outlines what the infraction is per your contract. And then the court says, okay. And they summons you to the court. You get a summons from the sheriff's deputy saying, and if you don't go, is upset with you, and they charge you with, somebody help me, what do they charge you with? I'm going to be 65, so I can start having senior moments. What do they charge? Contempt of court. And the court is mad at you, and they will fine you. The court will. The judge will. How dare you not show up to my court when I summons you, he'll say. But if you do show up and you've violated this man's constitutional rights per your oath, which is a contract, a civil contract, all you have to do is prove to the judge he violated, or no, if you violated the contract, the lawn mowing contract, all you got to do is show the judge, hey, he agreed to do this. The judge said, did you agree to do this? Yeah, I did it. And he says, did you agree to pay him? Yeah, I did agree to pay him. Why aren't you paying him? Because you did a crummy job. Explain that, But so the judge will hear both sides and say, no, you got to pay him. Or you don't have to pay him. Let's say you have photos of how terrible it is. No, you don't have to pay him. That's civil. That's contract court, right? When someone takes an oath of office, which is required to work for the state, the county, and the township, they take an oath to the Constitution. And then if they turn around and they violate your constitutional rights, you have grounds to sue them for violation of contract. It's simple. But there is a twist. The guy that mows your lawn and screws it up, he can only sue you for what you contracted to pay him. But let's say a township supervisor, and we've had this happen, says, oh, yeah, you can have 4 chickens, but no roosters. And you say, how come? And he says, because we say so, and it's the law. Oh, the law. Well, the Fifth Amendment says that I have the right to my property so long as it's legal property, right? Fifth Amendment. My life, my liberty, my property protected under the due process of law. So I can own it so long as it's legal. And then a township supervisor says, it isn't because I say so. He just degraded your constitutional rights for the color of law. Now, what are your constitutional rights worth to you? What are they worth to you? You're the only one that can decide that. And when you sue him for breach of contract, you get to say what you want to be made whole for the damage that he did to you, violating your constitutional rights. Your constitutional rights are part of you. They are part of you as a citizen. It's a component of citizenry. And a lot of people don't like that citizen word. I don't care. I am an American citizen. I'm protected by the Constitution. My government is governed by the Constitution. It's what they can't do to me, or else they would have disarmed me a long time ago and shut my mouth. But they can't. Right? So township supervisor says you can't have a rooster. Oh, you may have pissed off the wrong guy. Especially a guy who has lost people defending that Constitution. Because this guy, I take your scalp. But the law doesn't allow me to do that. What's the next best thing that I can take from you? I'll take everything you have. My Constitution is worth that much to me. And you take a real when you BS me and say that I can't have. And the judge might say, well, rooster, It's the principal judge. What are your constitutional rights worth to you? Have you ever lived in a country where you don't have any constitutional rights? Do you know what that's like? No, you don't. You live under a blanket of freedom that people provide for you. And you enjoy that. But you have no idea what it would be like to not have that blanket of freedom. You have no idea. You have no idea. So I would take that township supervisor for everything he has. I would sue him for his net worth with a straight face. That's what I would do. That's what it's worth to me. Only if a judge will hear the case. In a civil court, you think a judge won't hear the case? You think a judge won't take that? Question, and a serious one. Isn't intimidation an attempt to skirt the foundation of the Constitution? No. I have to think about that. Intimidation. Well, okay, what's intimidating to you might not be intimidating to me. We just had a situation where the Department of Agriculture wanted to intimidate somebody, and so they parked a car in front of her house and just sat there. So, hey, you're intimidating her. No, we're just sitting here. We're just sitting here. It seems intimidating. Well, we were waiting for a phone call, and we don't, I don't, intimidation is, and I'm sure what I'm saying now, like if this finds its way into the hands of, the vast network of food inspectors, they're going to be like, he's threatening us. No, you can take it that way if you want, but that doesn't mean that was my intent. I have the right to free speech. I can say what I want. Skirt the foundation of the Constitution. What is the foundation of the Constitution? I don't know what the foundation is. The foundation, it's the preservation of inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. We were created to be able to express ourselves freely. You can't do that in a communist country. And you saw how things were going in this country. You saw how things were going. Like I got thrown off YouTube by saying, I don't think you ought to take the vaccine. My opinion, I got thrown off. Medical advice, they said, you can't do that. I just said, I don't think you should. It's like, I don't think that you should eat soft serve ice cream, not when there's hand dipped. And I didn't get thrown off for that. But that was YouTube. So it wasn't exactly like the government was clamping down on. But then we find out that they actually were colluding with, but that's a whole other thing. An example, you will take this medication or you will be fired from your job. Many people had their lives ruined, and in ways that money later on does not make. Well, I tell you what, Chris, you work for a private company, right? And you hire in under contract. So when you get fired, it's because you violated your end of the contract. and they're saying, we're firing you because you're not keeping up your end of the contract. You know, the contract says you'll be here at, 8:15 in the morning and you continually show up at 9:00. You're fired. Well, I'm going to take you to court on that. Okay. We have documentation. You were late 18 times. We fired you. The judge would be like, what do you want me to do? It was a legit fire. But by the same token, it's a two-sided contract. You hired in there. They said, we will do this, we will pay you this. And then blank space. Nothing else. Nothing in there that said, you will be fully vaccinated. They added that on for the pandemic. And you fell for it. You should have let them fire you. Well, fire me. Fire me. But if you were dumb enough to say, well, we got to have my job, so I'm going to take this experimental vaccine, which everybody knew was a kill shot. Everybody knew. Anybody who's anybody. You believe them? You would let them put something in your body? Come on. Well, I got to have my job. How you feeling now? I feel fine. See, people who are feeling bad don't want to tell you that they're feeling bad because they want to make their decision to do that seem legit. It's not. You shouldn't have done it. You're serving under contract. Same thing in the military. You're serving under contract. That big open space, they can't just add stuff in there. There was never a line item that said you would take an experimental vaccine. And within the military community, they came out with a certain vaccine that they added in on new contracts, like when you re-upped, new contract. This vaccine wasn't available. I'll take that one because I signed saying I would, but I'm not taking these ones. You'd have been fine. If you violate the contract, then you wind up where in the military? A court martial to figure out, did you violate your end of the contract? The military is saying you did, so we're going to court martial you. But by the same token, if they violate their end of the contract, and we're not going to pay you for the next 2 months, you would have a lawyer assigned to you that would advocate for you. It works all the time. You get lawyers. Okay. Working for a private company and allowing them to dictate what you're going to, what your vaccine status is going to be is ludicrous. It's absurd that you would even consider it. Fire me. Okay, you guys are lucky to have a real constitution. Notwithstanding clause renders ours into one big joke, and our citizenship is a creature of statute, not constitutionalized. Yeah, but look at the bright side of it, Ghost. Your country is going to become part of the North American United States of America. You and Greenland, we're taking you. And then we're getting rid of your prime minister. David Arndt. Thanks, Mark. I look forward to your Tuesdays and all the joys and challenges. All right. I got to go. It's 10 o'clock. Appreciate it. We do have a consulting call tomorrow night. If you're in the Anyone Can Farm Tribe Plus, you will get a notification, and we will have a good consulting call. It usually is about an hour. Sometimes we go 2, like we did tonight. Chris is saying, I worked for the federal government, and I still have the official paper stating that if I did not get this medication, I would receive discipline and eventually lose my job. No other reason. You were threatened and you fell for it. That is like me saying, get out of that car and hand me the keys or I will kick your butt. Sometimes you got to say, then kick my butt, right? Official paper. Yeah. A lot of people got that stuff. It's required. It's mandated. Nope. I'm serving under contract. Fire me. Did you not know that all these military people are being brought back in? They're getting back pay and rank that said, nope, not doing it. And the Air Force let them go. You know how they let them go? They refused to re-enlist them, or they locked them out of their computers. And they offered them a administrative discharge. If I was there now, knowing what I know, I'd say, I'm not doing it. You can't make me. Well, we'll lock you out of your computer. But they didn't really even have them then. I'd say, fine. Fine. Court-martial me. Court-martial me. Because in that court, we will find out that, well, it says nothing about Sergeant Baker taking experimental vaccines. So you can't make him do it. It's not a lawful order. It is not part of the contract. Not at all. So we're going to fine for him. None of them went to court-martial because none of them had the guts to say, I'm not doing it. Yeah, I shouldn't say none of them. I knew an F-16 pilot that said, I'm not getting that vaccine. I'm not doing it. Kick me out. I dare you. I dare you. They didn't kick him out. My son is a pararescueman, right? The elite of the elite. Was under contract. They said, no, you got to get it. And he says, I'm not. They relented. He said, well, okay, we need pararescuemen, so don't worry about it. It wasn't what, you think because the little man standing at the front door tells you to put a mask on, you gotta, they make you. How about this? How about you just walk past him and see what happens? They make you. They made me put on a face mask. They're not going to make me do anything. You can't make me do a thing. Unless I got cuffs on, but that's after I've broken a law. You can't make me do something. You got to get rid of your pigs. Why? Because we'll give you a $700,000 fine if you don't. Freaking do it. We'll arrest you. Do it. We'll take your kids away. How about that? I didn't even say do it. They didn't say that one twice. No, because that's taboo. That's dangerous. That's dangerous to say that. But I said do it. Do it. I don't think you got what it takes to do it. Back it up. It's like you got to have some balls, for goodness sakes. If you want to be in this career field and somebody's going to show up and flash a little badge at you and says, you got to have a license because we say so, and you do, you're not going to make it in this career field. I can tell you that. This is a rough career field. It's extremely rough. And if that's where you land, then no. All right, I got to go. I'm getting worked up. Okay. See you guys tomorrow night, the ones that come. Sayonara.